so we want to go to Colombo. Tomorrow before 7, 200, negotiate. Oh, the Englishman's wardrobe should yield results. Oh, wonderful. Just like that. Let's go. We boarded the fast airship run by a British company that promised to reach Colombo within 2 hours. I'm at your service, Monsieur Fogg. Gotta press your shirts. The airship was not as fast as advertised, of course, but not to any considerable degree. My master wasn't troubled. A little dishonesty should form part of any traveler's calculations, he advised me. Only a fool would have not expected such behavior. Ouch. 5 days. Three days at noon. Alright, looks like we've got 3 days. We spent the night in a charming suite at the Grand Oriental Hotel, opposite the Victoria Arcade. The clattering of the electric trams ran late into the night, mixing with the lowing of the oxen drawing the poor people's carts across the cobbled streets. Let's make sure we can't further negotiate. No charge leaves at noon. Let's check out the market. We're not going to either of those places. Nope. Alright. Let's go. We boarded a sleek tea clipper with a bright red envelope and roaring twin engines. Is your ship fast? I asked the captain, a lean, dark-eyed Chinese man in the last flush of a youth. I go to join my wife in Singapore, the captain confessed, so you can be assured I will try to make good time. So saying, he flung the ship up into the air. I found myself standing beside the cheerful young captain. Are you newly married? I asked perspicaciously. He gave a little groan. Oh, is it so easy to tell? My crew must be laughing up their sleeves at me, but honestly, he grinned, I don't care. So it is a love match? Oh, no. He looked faintly ill. No, our marriage was arranged by our families in the proper way. Finding myself in love with her is an unexpected pleasure, though I suppose it is not strictly dutiful. I thought much on Captain Go's attitude and situation, but came to a few conclusions that night aboard the ship. There were rumblings of discontent aboard the ship, centered upon the figure of First Mate Renuga, a dark-skinned, towering Sinhalese woman. I inquired subtly into her grudge over lunch. This is our last voyage, she replied darkly. The captain's selling the ship and joining his wife's business. But he seems so well suited to be a captain. We certainly thought as much, Renuga replied darkly. We stared at our unappetizing stew as the crew grumbled. Why don't you buy the ship? I suggested, First Mate Renuga's expression turning blacker. Oh, I tried, but the price is too high, even if we go in all together. How much? I demanded gallantly. 27,000 pounds, she replied crisply. That's how profitable selling tea is, it seems. She glared at me. Do you want to help? Oh, Oh no. Oh, we may be able to help, I replied, thinking that the purchase of an airship would be no bad thing. Ha! As though you would help us, she replied sourly. A funny idea, but we do have some funny ideas of our own, she added darkly. She grimaced into her stew. Just wait and see. That doesn't bode well. That definitely sounds like mutiny. We're almost there. Oh no! Oh no! Okay. The first sign of trouble was when the lights began to flicker. The gas lamps sputtered out just before the secondary engine cut out, leaving the airship in darkness and silence. I groped my way to the bridge to investigate the matter. Raised voices echoed from behind the oak panel door, speaking in English. It was clear we had been boarded, so I returned to Monsieur Fogg, but stumbled in the dark. I was unceremoniously seized and dragged to the floor of the bridge, where First Mate Renuga held her pistol to Captain Go's head. Monsieur Fogg was tossed beside me soon after. "Is this your solution, First Mate?" I asked despairingly. "We don't want to be sold off to the highest bidder," she turned to the captain. "We have worked alongside you for 10 years. We gave you our loyalty, our blood, and you cast us aside for some land-grabbing woman?" "This is mutiny!" I shouted, trying to shock her out of her course. First Mate Renuga's lips curled. "And what about a captain abandoning ship? He sold us as a wedding present. Don't we deserve more?" "Perhaps you do," I nodded, seeing the frustration on the crew's face. "It is unfair, I agree." "The ship is my home," First Mate Renuga breathed as the crew stamped its feet and shouted their agreement. "I cannot let her go, even if her captain can." Something seemed to break in Captain Go's expression. He leapt upon his first mate with sudden, startling ferocity, and they began to grapple for the pistol. Oh dang. I tried to stop First Mate Renuga. The pistol jerked and the bullet punched a hole through the outer hull above us. Uh-oh. I heard a shrill whistle of air before we were knocked to the floor by the sound of an almighty explosion. I looked down at the two, but both were paralyzed with sudden fear. Wind whipped past us. We rolled and tumbled in the air. We were falling uncontrollably. And then we hit the water, and I slipped into glorious, terror-free unconsciousness. We're so close! We could have made it. Oh, how many days is that? Oh, boy. Oh, no. I knew it was too good to be true. I awoke, and I did not drown, which was more than I expected. My head was upon Monsieur Fogg's lap. "The emergency protocols have activated, and we have been sealed into the bridge," he informed me, in lieu of a greeting. I tried to sit up, and Monsieur Fogg pushed me unceremoniously back down. I felt relatively well, considering this whole accursed journey of ours. "You cracked your skull," my master declared. "This is not the first time you have awoken. Every time you sit up, I explain matters, and then you swoon once more." "Are you unharmed, monsieur?" "You have not asked that before," my master smiled. "But are you?" "I am somewhat injured," my master said serenely, and then coughed an enormous amount of thick, oozing warm blood on my chest. Ugh. I tried to sit up, for Mr. Fogg to slump heavily against me. His brow felt clammy and fevered. "We have had a much larger problem than our injuries, Passepartout," he said. His voice was uncharacteristically raspy. "What is that?" I asked, fearful for the answer. In response, Mr. Fogg tipped my head a little. I saw heavy glass windows of the bridge. Instead of pale blue sky and clouds, I only saw dark water, pitted by air bubbles rushing away. "We are sinking," Mr. Fogg continued, regaining some of his composure. "And Captain Go informs me we may have only a day's worth of air at most. So then, we will die here." I saw Mr. Fogg almost smile in the murky darkness. It seems a distinct possibility. We sat together in the darkness for an hour or more without saying another word. I heard the captain and first mate working together, tending to the injured crew, whispering encouragement and lighting our dwindling stock of candles to give the illusion of warmth, despite the deepening fear and bone-chilling cold of the ocean which promised little mercy. "I confess I did not account for this possibility," he said into the dark. "It is not your fault. It is not your fault," I said, recognizing his statement for the foggish apology I was. It was. I drew in my breath. And then I let it go. There was nothing further to be said. The important thing is only to calculate the average risk, my master murmured. The average transcends the particular risks and is constant. It is what some call the law of averages, but its true name is the theory of the central limit. Constancy is the soul of whist, Passepartout. Another long silence, but a softer one. I felt the pain in my head pound at my temples and then recede, like waves on a shore. My master coughed more blood, and we all shivered as the last candle blew out. Someone wept, but I did not. Are you content with your life, monsieur? I never thought of my life in terms of contentment, he replied, as though the words were strange to him. I shall have to consider the notion. And later, much later, after the whole began to shriek and as the air grew thin, I think I heard my master say, perhaps, given the circumstances, you should call me Phileas, before I fell into an uneasy, delirious sleep. Oh, brother. A series of dull shudders went through the remains of the airship, and Captain Go staggered to his feet. It has been an honor serving with you, he said, his voice admirably steady. Nahinsa, will you forgive me? First Mate Renuga stood up, her eyes glittering. Only if you will forgive me in turn, Captain. I sat next to Monsieur Fogg, who had tried and failed to stagger up. He was clutching his ribs and breathing hard. The ship jerked, but instead of cracking open like an oyster shell, it began to rise up in the water. Our faces were frozen in shock, our eyes wide, our mouths open. We shot upwards, faster and faster, until we broke the surface, and the sun blinded us, with a sweet yellow light casting shadows away with its brilliance. I could think of nothing to say but, am I delirious, monsieur? My hands threw themselves to cover my eyes, to shield the glare. No, monsieur, said Khalif. You are rescued. Look. I followed his indication and looked up. Indeed, the sky hung a colossal airship. Thick steel cables were attached to our vessel, and we were slowly winched out of the air. A bulkhead door swung open on that ship, and a woman in a welder's mask and armored suit stood, limbed in light. "Hello, down there!" she called as Captain Go gasped. "Have any of you seen my husband?" Please don't die. Please don't die. Please don't die. We'll probably have to stay a little bit in Singapore in order to get his health back up. Madame Go, the banker, proved to be an excellent rescuer. She retrieved our bags, provided us with vast quantities of stew, and had thought to bring a team of doctors. Captain Go trailed around her behind her, looking, if possible, even more love-struck than before. I looked in on First Mate Renuga, who was recovering nicely in one of the hastily set-up medical bays. "The captain's not going to tell the ship," she told me excitedly, "and all I needed to do was try to shoot him." Ha! Monsieur Fogg, with bandaged ribs and a pair of impressive black eyes, was on his feet, much against the doctor's order. "Would you like to go for a walk?" I asked, sensing his restlessness behind his facade. "Passepartout," he said, and then trailed off almost uncharacteristically. "Yes, monsieur?" "Thank you," he said briskly, and then opened up his ledger. "Now, leave me in peace until we have reached Singapore. From here on," he flashed his eyes, "I am going to ensure I consider all of our possibilities." Singapore was a British colonial port peopled largely by Chinese, Malays, and Indians, and fueled by rubber exports and opium wealth pouring into the new banks. It seemed a dangerous spot to linger, so I made what visa arrangements were required of us and then returned to Monsieur Fogg, but I found him in some consternation. "Is there some problem, monsieur?" I inquired. "We have no way onwards," he remarked, as though upon the weather. "Passepartout, you must seek out some transportation." "Indeed, monsieur. There were plenty of people at hand to talk to. I inquired about vessels headed for... where shall we go?" Manila in the Spanish Philippines, and one of the Malay soldiers pointed me in the direction of a little steam yacht. She goes to Manila, he said, and then cocked his head. Are you a Spaniard? I am French, monsieur. Truly, I was growing tired of being so thoroughly misidentified. The soldier shrugged. Heard that there's cholera in Manila. If you're not a Spaniard, you have no business there. Maybe you should avoid it. He shrugged again. Then again, you rich people do whatever you want, so why am I bothering? Thank you for the warning, I said politely, not wanting to insist on my lack of wealth to a man wearing rough clothes upon a body bent with labor. The sailor jerked a nod and went back to his companions, leaving me to contemplate his advice upon the Singaporean dock. Well, it looks like no matter what we do, we're going to Manila, right? Unless we want to go to Australia? It'd be good to get Passepartout's health up anyways. As night fell, my serious concerns about Mr. Fogg made me seek out a doctor. She put a stethoscope to my master's chest and listened. A mild fever, I would say 2 days to recover to full strength. There was no alternative. I kept my master in his bed. Not too long, then after 2 days, he was back to full strength. Alright, let's go to Manila. We took a passage on a little steam yacht with a cargo hold full of Chinese silk parasols, which the captain assured me would fetch an exorbitant price in Manila. Are the ladies so shy of the sun? I asked in Spanish. These pretty moneymakers are only passing through Manila. Captain Amparo, a dark-eyed Filipina of middle years, was unable to keep the glee from her voice. I will sell them to a trader for shipment to Acapulco, where the Mexican ladies will pay all their pin money for a month just for one gaudy parasol. Will you keep one for yourself? I could not resist asking. Me? She looked astonished. What use would I have for such a frippery? I regarded her sensible attire and short hair. I admire your practicality. Captain Amparo laughed companionably. That is a skill I have always possessed. I slept well that night aboard the steam yacht, secure in the knowledge that it was being steered by the captain's steady hands. Manila to Hong Kong. Hong Kong to Honolulu. We had some ill winds in the morning, but Captain Amparo kept the crew calm and focused, shouting orders at them in a language I did not know. Tagalog, perhaps, as it was widely spoken in the Philippines. We were merely bobbed about until the weather settled, but the worst injury was some seawater clogging my shoes. We will not be delayed, Captain Amparo assured me, perhaps mistaking the cause of my obvious melancholy. My master will be pleased, I said, though I could not help cast another mournful look at my ruined shoes. Well, at least they're not the Italian ones that got stolen. The captain caught the direction of my gaze and looked confounded. My God, you are an utter dandy! Do you really care so much for appearances? A gentleman is always presentable. I sniffed. I do not care for fashion's sake. Captain Amparo had taken to regarding me as though I were the oddest creature to ever pass aboard her vessel, and she looked thunderstruck when we reached our destination. Good luck in Manila, she said, shaking my hand. They will hardly know what to make of you. That's right. Maybe if we explore, we can find some other ways. Yes. We could go to Pyongyang, Yokohama, or all the way to Honolulu. We arrived at the Spanish-governed capital of Manila at a most inopportune time. The city had recently suffered the depredations of a major typhoon, and the efforts at rebuilding had been stalled by an outbreak of the dreaded cholera morbus. It originated with the sailors of the steamer Eolus from the nearby town of Zamboanga, and was the local rumor in any case. Infected establishments were burned daily by the sanitary ward, with our hotel one of the casualties. We relocated to the near telephone exchange, taking the mechanical horse-pulled tram. Concerned with the possibility of infection, I ensured Mr. Fogg drank only boiled water, as recommended by Jon Snow's article in the Medical Times and Gazette, going to the lengths of preventing him from eating any cut-cooked food for fear of contamination. From our window, I could see carts piled high with the dead being taken to the mountain to be burned, rather than interred in a churchyard, which put me in a morbid frame of mind. I went to the local telegraph office and sent a message to a dear friend in Paris. And just a friend, mes amis, a childhood companion whose quick smile and cheerful impulse I yearned for in these morbid circumstances. I sent a vague, innocuous greeting so as not to alarm them, and made my way back to Mr. Fogg under the fragrant coconut oil lamps, eager to part from the city riven by sickness and death. Okay. I'm sure there's probably something from Yokohama to San Francisco, or we could try to do Honolulu. That's mighty expensive. Let's go to Yokohama. Oh, I didn't go to the market, did I? Before retiring, I attended to Mr. Fogg. Yep. Let's go. The Sugawara was an Imperial Japanese steamship designed by French engineers and crewed by naval conscripts drawn from all four occupations. Captain Hirosu bowed slightly in greeting, and I gave her a deeper bow of respect, which caused her to raise an approving eyebrow. "Welcome aboard," she told us, as the crew raced about, readying the ship for departure. "With God's grace, we will have a swift journey." Please, 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 let it be swift. Just unadventurous, plain old journey to Yokohama. Oh gosh, a Madras head smasher? Glad we're not in Madras anymore. I encountered Captain Hirosu on deck in the morning and noticed that she wore a katana in a beautifully worked sheath. "That is a beautiful weapon," I said reverently, having been swept away by the recent Parisian fashion of Japanisme. Captain Hirosu ducked her head a little. "It is not a mere military-issued gunto," she admitted. "It has personal value to me." I said she did not want to speak further and did not press her. Ah well, there would be time enough to get to know the captain better on our journey to Yokohama. In the morning, I saw Captain Hirosu playing at the little Protestant chapel beside the galley. "What do you pray for, Captain?" I asked. "I pray for health and long life of Emperor Meiji," she said, so fervently that the commonplace words rang with truth. He looked to the west and thus progressed forward, and thus towards progress. I considered her words. "And you are a product of this progress?" Her hands closed over the hilt of her katana. 5 years ago it was illegal for a peasant or woman to wear a sword. Now Emperor Meiji has given me a warship. "Yet you still wear a samurai's katana," I pointed out. A look of sadness crossed Captain Hirosu's face. It was my grandfather's. The men of my family are all samurai. They must be very proud of you. No, Captain Hirosu closed her eyes. My father is still loyal to his daimyo, and fights against the Emperor. You fight against your own family? I whispered, shocked. I requested a foreign posting so I would not be sent to battle the rebels. The captain looked troubled. But if my emperor sends me, I must go. Will you be able to do it? I am an officer of the Imperial Japanese Navy, she said softly, but I hope for his sake my father and his daimyo will bow to the emperor soon. An officer came to fetch Captain Hirosu away for some pressing duty, and I was left with my whirling thoughts. Yokohama harbor was thronged with steamships flying foreign flags. Dutch, French, British, American, even a few Russian ones. The Sugawara was a regal sight as she pulled into the docks. Good health to your emperor, Captain, I called as we disembarked. Captain Hirosu only smiled and bowed, perhaps a little more deeply than when we had boarded. Surely it goes to San Francisco? Yes! It was hard to believe that Yokohama had only relatively recently opened to foreigners. There was an entire foreigners district not far from the waterfront, where it was common to hear Chinese or Russian or as Japanese. There were several varieties of English to choose from as well, though Monsieur Fogg would have barely deigned to include the nasal tongue of the American merchants. I noticed a Japanese man watching the scene with a look of intense concentration and scribbling in his sketchbook. What are you doing? He jumped and left a smear of ink on paper. He looked up, clearly irritated. Do you mind? He said, his accent an unholy mix of Dutch, French, and English. I am making a drawing for a woodcut. Why does that American appear drunk? I wondered aloud, and he covered his drawing jealously. It is an artistic impression of the foreigners, he stressed. You dislike foreigners, then? I predicted. You are a very strange person, he pronounced after a brief silence. So are you, I exclaimed, to his vast, untempered amusement. He colored one of his women's skirts lovingly, his hand on the page much gentler and kinder than his voice had been. Finally, he thrust the paper in my direction, assuring me it was only a preliminary sketch. I accepted gracefully, charmed that he had chosen to bestow a gift upon a mere stranger. I stored it carefully. It was the fine souvenir of Yokohama. Yep, we'll want to go to San Francisco. Woof. $4,000. That extra day worth almost an extra grand? We took a room and settled in, and I attended to Monsieur Fogg. With the last light of the evening, I spent a few hours polishing shoes in the lobby, earning £97 in fees and tips. I'm afraid to walk around and get robbed. I did some minor alterations to our clothing to better ready for our upcoming departure. I must visit the bank, Mr. Fogg declared. You have additional funds? I am a gentleman. They would extend me credit if required, he replied. But do you suppose I put my entire fortune into a carpetbag under your supervision? Of course, I regarded the bank as we entered. It was a small affair, but efficiently looked after, and we were seen too quickly. $700 tomorrow. We require £700, I said. The manager nodded. I will have to communicate with London first, of course. She apologized. I should have a reply tomorrow. It seems, Monsieur Fogg remarked as we left, we have some more time to dispose of. Before going to bed, I helped the kitchen staff to clean, earning 63